On so many podcasts because I knew the only way to grow my OnlyFans was to be viral. For me, I made up this complete character and I said whatever I needed to because I understand the male brain and I needed to make money and I was like, bet.
But isn't the counter to this position that if you spent that much time lying about that, why should we assume you're not spending time lying about this?
Because you can, as a Christian, if you doubt me, as a Christian, you should look at the fruits of the Spirit and take it down.
You lied about everything.
Yeah, pretty much.
Okay, so let's talk about what the red pill is and what I view as the problems with red pill. So I view the red pill as kind of an offshoot or something that developed from maybe earlier MGTOW or manosphere types. So a lot of the complaints center around inequality before the courts and family law specifically benefiting women. I don't disagree there, but you mentioned yourself that they can be degenerate. And when I look at someone like the Fresh and Fit guys who do talk about, like, they encourage promiscuity among men, that's not something that I support.
Yeah, but again, this is a detailed problem with your worldview. So let me dive right into this as well. These are secularists, and these secularist men are trying to help secularist men. The Christians are supposed to be coming in with solutions to these issues, and what happens is, like you, they have actual contradictions inside of their worldview, so these guys don't want to listen to them. What you guys say is, oh, hey, just roll the dice, and hopefully you'll get lucky, and maybe you won't marry one of these horrible women. What is the actual Christian prescription? So then tell me, Lauren, what is the actual Christian prescription to hypergamy in society from women and mate selection? What is the actual solution that you have from a Christian ethic that you can give these guys that's better than what Fresh and Fit gives them?
I don't have a problem with hypergamy.
Yeah, that's not my question. My question is, if you believe in monogamy because you're a Christian, but women are not acting in a monogamous way inside society, which they're not, what is the prescription that you're going to give to men? There's not enough women to go around who are virtuous for the virtuous men. What prescription are you going to give to the secularists? Do you even have one? You don't have one, right?
Well, no, I think the solution is to do things like change family court, like absolutely change the law surrounding divorce. I think a lot of men, even if they are secularists, would feel better going into a marriage if they didn't think that there was such a good chance that they absolutely lose everything in the divorce. And I also think that you say that there's not enough good women to go around. I think that's true. And in my video talking about the women and the right, I believe a lot of this stems from a lack of leadership from men in the church. I think there should be a lot of churches, they prioritize gynocentrism, female sensibilities over actual male leadership. And I think that's a problem. And I think if we were to let the church
doesn't answer the question. What is the actual prescription that you can give to men right now who are facing down the barrel of marriage, right? Where you have a state contract in a secular way. These guys are speaking to secular men. You're the Christian who's trying to convert them. What's the actual prescription that you're going to give these guys when it comes to marriage? What is it, Lauren?
Well, I think you pointed out that any prescription when it comes to marriage, if you're talking to a secularist, should be to follow Christ, because anything less than that is not a marriage.
Oh, and they go, yeah, but I don't want to do that. What I'm going to do instead is I'm just going to, have sex with a bunch of hot chicks and then never tie myself down with the state. That makes a lot more sense. Can you actually tell me why that's illogical from a secular progressive state? I can't actually think of how it's illogical for a man who's a secularist to say, I don't want to get married in the current sphere. The women are not virtuous. And instead, I'm just going to go out and I'm going to have tons and tons of sex. And that's it. Why is that actually problematic from that stance? Doesn't it seem like it's good advice for Fresh and Fit?
If your problem with women is that too many of them have slept around, etc., then I don't think you need to be a Christian to recognize that by continuing to sleep with these women, you are exacerbating the problem. That would be contrary to hypergamy.
Hypergamy is actually stating the opposite within the red pill, within the red pill thought process. They're actually stating the opposite, that most men cannot sleep with X amount of women. Most of them cannot. Most women can sleep with whatever guy they want. Most guys cannot sleep with whatever woman they want. So it would actually be the opposite within their sphere. So they're telling men, actually, you're probably not going to be able to do this thing. However, here's self-improvement you can do, which would improve your chances of mate selection and things like this. From a secular standpoint, how in the world could they possibly be wrong? What are you offering? This is the question. What are you offering from the Christian church, from the Christian perspective, to combat these ideas, Lauren? What are you actually showing them?
Well, once more, you talk about the fact that, well, they're offering self-improvement so that men can improve their chances for mate selection. I will maintain, if you are a man who believes that promiscuity amongst women, sleeping with men who they are not married to, is a problem, you cannot engage in that same behavior while complaining about the problem. You are exacerbating the problem.
Yeah, but most of those men are not exacerbating the problem. This is not a male problem. This would be a woman problem when it comes to hypergamy. If most of the women are sleeping with a select few men, how's that a man's issue? That would be a woman's issue. And again, you still have not answered the question from the church, from the Christian perspective. What would you do to solve that?
Well, I think what we need to do to solve that is, when it comes to things like, sex outside of wedlock, as a church, we have fault, like the Christian church has failed in enforcing those moral standards. I mean, and it's true. How many, if you think about like church singles groups, or even just general services, how many of them talk about something like sex within marriage specifically? It's not a popular concept. It's not something that I think a lot of church leaders, quote, think is a winning topic. But because of that, even amongst people within the church, like, that's a problem.
Okay. Well, here, I'll give you the solution, because that's a non-solution. That's just literally prattle. You didn't say anything. Here's the actual solution.
I'll let you continue. But
go ahead.
What I've said there is that the church should absolutely be pushing to enforce those moral standards, preaching those moral standards.
Which church?
Christian churches, like the church is the body of Christ.
Yeah, but the problem is that within Protestantism, you have so many different denominations, so many of them which embrace feminism, LGBTQ, this type of thing. They have no unified message. Only the traditional churches, Orthodoxy and Catholicism, do. That's it. That's why the Muslims have become so popular where they're at when they're pushing traditional values. That's the reason why. So I can tell you how you can actually make a lifeline to these guys if you actually want to bring them over to your side. If you really want to understand how you can fix this problem, you fix the problem with a move to patriarchy. That's the thing red pillars will embrace, a move to patriarchal systems. That's what Christianity can offer to the secularists, which bring them over to our side, a move to patriarchy. Because absent patriarchy, what has happened...
Churches need to embrace that.
Yeah, but they have no ecclesiastical authority. Because there's no ecclesiology, they can't do it. Protestant churches can't do it. They don't have the necessary ecclesiology in order to move into a patriarchal system. They don't have any reference for marriage. They don't have any laws or bylaws regarding marriage. They have no laws or bylaws regarding anything, whereas the traditional churches do have that ecclesiastical authority. That's why the traditional Abrahamic religions do so well, and why Protestantism does not do so well. And so hang on, I'm almost done. When you're making the advocation for this, the reason that you have a pro-feminist stance without even knowing it is because if you want to solve the problem on the red pill side and the Christ pill side, the one unifier that you have is a patriarchy, patriarchal systems. They will agree with that, and you can move them out of that. But just telling them, oh no, just be monogamous, that doesn't do anything for them, because who are the women left? They get the leftovers to be monogamous with. That's what they get.
All right, well, I mean, when it comes to things like divorce within the Catholic Church, at least if we're going with nominal Catholics, it is still high, unfortunately.
Depends on the country. That's one. Yeah. And there's influencers which happen inside of Western nations, especially due to feminism. In Orthodoxy, the rates are very, very, very low. Also, Orthodoxy offers the ecclesiastical authority and the requisite to get married outside of the state. It's not a requirement, because these are sacraments. These are messages which you can give to actual red pillars to move them over to Christ. What you can't tell them to do, though, is, hey, take the big risk and the big gamble because Jesus would really like it if you did. That's insane messaging.
That's not my position, by the way, to take the risk and the gamble, to just roll the dice. I absolutely don't think that's a good idea for men to do. And I think that there are definitely things that you can do that would reduce your likelihood of getting divorced. I don't think you should just roll the dice. Absolutely not.
Well, then what is your prescription other than a move to patriarchy?
I don't think a move to patriarchy is not part of that answer. Again, I said that even in regard to the church, but I also think that there are certain mate selections that you can do that do have a statistical likelihood at reducing your chances of divorce, right? Socioeconomic status of married couples has an outcome. It affects your likeliness of divorce.
Yeah, but it also affects the outcome of you having children because you have them later in life because of family planning. And so what ends up happening is it's the poor and the downtrodden and those who reject materialism who are going to inherit the earth because they're the only ones who are breeding. It's actually bad advice to tell people to wait until later in life to get married because you're going to destroy the chance of them having more children.
I'm not telling people to wait later in life to get married, but I think there's sometimes the willingness to believe that there is one likelihood of divorce and that it's a roll of the dice no matter what the circumstances are, which is patently not true. And there's a big differential, even if you look at between different races, of the likelihood of divorce. The black divorce rate, I think,
that's because different races embrace different types of ecclesiastical authority inside of their churches. Namely, some of them have none. And that's why when the church effectively had some sort of body to it inside of black communities, you did not see these divorce rates nearly as high because they had a more traditional foundation for what it was that they were going for. That's all destroyed. But when you're talking about the entailment of what you just said, though, of, hey, your likelihood for divorce drastically is going to reduce if you have, these different socioeconomic statuses. An entailment of that is going to be that they wait till later to get married. That, in turn, is going to cause us to have less children, which exacerbates the birth rate crisis. These, again, not a great position.
Well, the thing is, when people look at the likelihood of divorce dropping, we're basically talking about IQ here, and bell curve talks about this. Your likelihood of getting divorced is greatly higher if your IQ is lower, and socioeconomic status is kind of like it represents that. And so, if you are a man, absolutely trying to find a woman who is not low IQ, therefore has better impulse control, it is going to reduce your likelihood of getting a divorce. Now, does that simultaneously mean that you have to wait until you're 30 to get married and maybe 35 to have kids? No, I think those are two different things.
The high IQ people are not having children.
Yeah, which is a problem, and I want them to have children.
Yeah, but if you want them to have children, then you have to embrace patriarchy because we want the smart mothers to stay at home and raise their children. We don't want them in the workforce literally frying their brains on behalf of their boss. We want the really high IQ women. We want the really high IQ women at home raising children to make the next generation of high IQ children. Otherwise, they're wasted. They're wasted in the marketplace. Move to patriarchy is the only answer to this. That's the only way that this can actually be done in a structured way. You can't incentivize them with money. There's no way to incentivize people with money to have children. The poorest among us are the ones who have the children now. So financial incentives are not going to work for this.
I've long said the idea that the reason why women aren't having children is because of cost is ridiculous. And it's not just the poor in this country who have more children than the rich, but also if we look at a global scale, the places where there's the least economic development, they tend to have the most. It is absolutely a choice that people are making. Now, does that simultaneously mean that I don't think concerns over affordability are, we shouldn't talk about them? No, but I don't think that is the core issue of why
that's a materialist position. It's a materialist position. You having a family should not have anything to do with materialism. It should have to do with the relationship and the sacrament between yourself and Jesus Christ in the submission of your wife to your patriarchal authority and your ability to raise children, even in meager settings. Some of the best people come out of the worst poverty situations. It's not a bar for having a family. The messaging that can come from Christianity only can cross this threshold and Rubicon with the red pill if we have an embrace of patriarchy. That's it. It's the only way. I still haven't actually heard any descriptors of the red pill that you disagree with. What are they?
Oh, I told you it's the push for the promiscuity, because we also have an overlap with what seems to be the pickup artist mentality, where we have people like
It's
Fresh
not
and
red
Fit
pill.
going on sugar baby sites, right, and sleeping with all of these women.
Yeah, the push towards promiscuity is something which I push back on more than most, but that's not red pill. Just because you're a pickup artist, think of the red pill as a data packet. Inside of the data packet is a ton of information. You can utilize it how you see fit. Can you utilize it for the purposes of nefarious manipulation? Yes. Can you also utilize it for the purposes of help building men up and men's advocacy? Yes. You can't lay at the feet of the red pill the fact that some pickup artists and some people push towards promiscuity. That's not a red pill ideology. Red pill is simply information. That's it. It's descriptive truths which are given out into the ethos, and you can do what you want with those descriptive truths. I've not actually ever heard, and I've been on Fresh and Fit, and I have tangled with Myron on this, and he has told me to my face, yes, it's degenerate behavior. Yes, promiscuity is bad. Yes, promiscuity should be rejected if we had a moral society. Andrew, what are Christians going to do to reach out in order to make sure we have a moral society again? In this case, when I ask you, right, you are telling the degens to get married, which is insane, right?
That's not my prescription to have a more moral society, is to just get married. That's absolutely not it.
It was it. I caught you in a contradiction on it already. That you're advocating as bad a sin as they are. What is the distinction between them saying go have sex unmarried with a bunch of people and you saying no, get married secularly, absent a sacrament? You're both advocating for the same exact thing, Lauren.
It's not the same exact thing. Even if we just look at the consequentialist, and again, I think you're right. Actually,
you're not a
consequentialist.
You're a Christian.
But if we look at the outcomes, you can't say that the outcome is the same where you're sleeping with one person for the rest of your life versus you're sleeping with all of these other people. That's actually not the same. It's not
wait.
in terms of the outcome.
But it's still degeneracy on both sides. If they're getting married absent a sacrament, right, they're still degenerates. And if they're promiscuous, they're still degenerates. You're both advocating for degeneracy. You're both just doing it in different ways. And that's why guys like me exist, to push back on these ideologies, because it's nuts. It's actually crazy.
Well, I think, again, I will say you're right about the civil marriage thing, and I will thank you for elucidating that for me. That's totally fine. But I think even if we look at purely from a secular standpoint, with the acknowledgement that a civil marriage is not a sacramental marriage, and therefore is sinful, if we look at the outcomes of things like promiscuity involving multiple partners, then we have children being born out of wedlock.
You still have them being born out of wedlock. Your prescription also would have children being born out of wedlock.
Yeah, but to multiple baby mamas and things like that, which is objectively worse.
Okay, so now you're consequentialist again. Now you're consequentialist
hang on.
again.
And if we look at the outcomes like poverty, think like abuse, there is a difference between a secular married couple versus just sleeping with a bunch of women. There's a difference.
Okay. So just to get this right, I get it. You're advocating for degeneracy light. Got it. Like, does that I don't know how that makes it better that you advocate for degeneracy light
I'm not
instead of
I'm not
tons of degeneracy
for that marriage in the first place, but I can still recognize that the outcomes are different and one is measurably worse than the other.
Yeah, but the outcomes, you're not a consequentialist. Christians don't follow consequentialism. While it's true we can look at outcomes, you're supposed to be following virtues and the teachings of Jesus Christ, not of what the consequences of your higher duties are. If you were a consequentialist and a Christian, that would be absent the Christian ethic and the Christian ethos, period. And it doesn't even follow with the logos. None of this follows, Lauren. None of it follows.
But so you're saying that these red pill men are secular, therefore we have to speak to them in terms of a secular language, what the pros and the cons are. There is still a secular argument to be made for why you should not be sleeping with a bunch of women, like one night stands and pickup artist style. There's still a secular argument to be made
you can
for
make
society
that,
why
yes,
that is worse.
You can make that secular argument, but here's the thing. It's not enough to destroy their worldview if you can't offer them one that's better. And what they hear is hypocrisy. And what they hear is nonsense. What they hear is you saying, hey, the best thing that you can do is get married, in spite of the fact that my values say that you're not even really married. That these are insane positions which are put together in order to attack the red pill who's just trying to give descriptive truths. I'm not saying that their prescriptions are great. That's where you get into some of the pickup artist stuff. Most of them don't make prescriptions, though. Rollo calls it a praxeology. It's not, but he calls it a praxeology. These different people have different names for it, but they're just trying to give descriptive claims for how the world actually works. And all I see is you beating the hell out of them and kissing the ass of former prostitutes like Nala and kissing the ass of all of these women and saying, how dare you? How dare you, Pearl Davis? How dare you, Andrew Wilson, say that you think that, oh, I don't know, maybe this chick who had sex with hundreds of men on film has done absolutely nothing to show the fruits or in any way really repent or show any remorse for this. How dare you not kiss their ass? Yeah, that's a losing message. It's a losing message.
I'm not saying that anyone needs to kiss Nala's ass. I'm just saying that as Christians, we cannot make a judgment as to whether or not she has been saved. And it is possible that she has been saved. That's my position on Nala.
That wasn't just your position. Your position in your video was also to attack people like Pearl Davis, who is the only one, was the only one out of you sea of harpies, that's my words, okay, who wasn't kissing this woman's ass. She was the only one who actually didn't get on her knees and kiss this prostitute's ass because she got dunked at heresychurch.com. The only one.
So it sounds like when you say that she just got dunked at heresychurch.com, do you believe that you don't believe that Nala has been saved? Do you believe it's possible that she has been?
Of course, I would not make a claim to the salvation, but what I would say is I would definitely not be attacking creators like Pearl Davis who are pointing out that, hey, you Christians should not be running to embrace this. You Christians should not be running to say that, hey, this is necessarily even a good thing that she's doing the testimony roadshow and look how saved it I am. That is the opposition of the Christian ethic. She was the only one in a whole sea of you women who came after her, who stood her ground and said no. That's respectable.
Specifically said that Jesus isn't going to save these hoes. I think Jesus can save some of them. I think he will save some of them.
Not save them from the consequence of their actions. That's what she means by that. Not that they can't find salvation through Jesus Christ, but that Jesus isn't going to save them from the consequences of their actions. They're not. You can't use Christianity.
You mean in a world like, because obviously if Jesus saves them, it is from the consequences of their actions, their sinfulness on a spiritual level. But you mean
I'm talking about in the world, yes.
Dating.
Yeah, in the world.
Yeah, no, I agree.
That's her point.
That's not something I disagree with. Like the idea, and I've said this online. I've said this multiple times. Nala,
what she means is, I'll just frame it the best way I can. Jesus can save these hoes' soul, okay? But men are not going to be able to save these hoes in the world, and women are not going to be able to save these hoes in the world. And it sure would be nice if some of them actually faced the consequences for their actions, were held to account without a what about the Mendo argument from commentators like you, Lauren.
What do you mean, what about the Mendo?
Because what about the Mendo? Every time that we get into these discussions, and we even in this discussion / debate that we're having right now, almost every single time we bring up the female promiscuity issue, you bring it right back to men. You call the men the hoe-makers. You call the men the people who are responsible. You did. You said the red pillars are exacerbating the same issue they rage against. The thing is interesting here is when you're talking about hypergamy, that would actually be in opposition to your point. That's point one. And then point two is that while there are hoe-makers inside of these red pill spaces, most of them are feminists. And most of the debates I do with these red pillars, I prove that they're feminists because they embrace the ethic of destroying patriarchy for the purpose of degeneracy. But it's not a men's problem here. This is a woman's problem.
I very much, I disagree that I don't think that the problem is also amongst women and the women's promiscuity. I've done who knows how many videos at this point talking about promiscuity specifically amongst women, including women who do OnlyFans. I very much believe that this is, I mean, women are the gatekeepers of sex historically. So
that's a red pill talking point.
Yeah, it's a correct talking
All
point.
of the descriptors are mostly correct. I still haven't actually heard what you've done is conflated red pill with pickup artists. I haven't actually heard a single criticism of the red pill.
So you seem to, when we talk about even like feminists or red pill, you're like, this is specifically what the most basic belief structure that each one of them holds. Therefore, anything absent that's not really feminism. That's not really red pill.
No, I'm not giving you a no true Scotsman fallacy. I can explain. You're trying to move into a no true Scotsman fallacy, and that's not what I'm saying.
No. That's not what I'm doing. Let me finish. Okay. So I'm taking the position of this is what the movements exist as. Like the feminist movement. This is what the feminist movement represents. These are what feminists argue for. This is what the red pill movement represents. These are what, and again, like I specifically will talk about people like Pearl Davis because I will fully acknowledge that I don't follow people like Rollo Tomasi, or I'm sure there's other ones who are part of it that I don't follow. Like this is what red pill as a movement has brought.
What has it brought?
Well, I think if we're talking about the red pill movement, there's absolutely the idea and that male promiscuity should be excused or is not as bad as female promiscuity.
And what is your evidence for this?
This is something, well, I'm talking specifically about people like Pearl Davis, like Myron.
No, Pearl Davis nor Myron say this. Here's what they say. They give a descriptor. This is the problem, right? You don't know what you're talking about on these issues. The descriptor, I'm going to tell you the descriptor.
That it's not the same when
it's not, and here's why. The descriptor here is true. Here's the descriptor. The descriptor is that promiscuity in society is not punished by women towards men because of hypergamy. However, it is punished by men towards women, meaning the value set due to our ontology, which is different, right? Women seem to not be as upset by male promiscuity as men get by female promiscuity. This is objectively true. We have all of the data you could possibly imagine proving that this is true. Women seem to not care so much. Now, this could have something to do with the penetrative act, because if you look at homosexuality, for instance, both sides seem to be they have a disgust reaction to this. It could be due to the penetrative nature. I'm not exactly sure why this exists as a descriptive truth, but it is descriptively true. That is their point. Their point is not whether or not this behavior is good for men. Most red pillers say that promiscuity for men is not a good thing, in fact. But that doesn't mean that the descriptive truth that is viewed differently between the sexes isn't true, because it is. It most definitely is.
But then, so you come along and say Pearl actually means XYZ. Let me explain it. This is not what Pearl is saying when she is online, when she is tweeting out. This is a very different thing. And this is where I think Pearl shoots herself in the foot a lot, because I don't know if she's engagement farming to try to like say things in the most provocative way possible. But she does not say that men and women, or she does not just say that, oh, cheating is viewed differently from men as it is women, therefore whatever. She will actually say that it's not a big deal if a man cheats. Like
no.
just
what happens, and Pearl also clarified this, and I even have the tweets of her clarifying this. She's clarified it a million times. But what happens is, because you have a character limitation, what people do, and it's a leftist game, they take what is said out of context. They portray that as a position of Pearl Davis, even though she's clarified it 100 times. That promiscuity for men is not good. However, it is a more understandable in society because they're not punished for it by women the same way women are punished for it by men. This operates under incentives. That's showing you an incentive difference.
But I think she's also, she's leading her audience down the wrong path, because you'll have men like Matt Walsh and Michael Knowles who argue for marriage very strongly.
Yeah, that's right. They argue for secular marriage and have the same contradiction you do, which is why the red pill doesn't take them seriously.
Can I finish?
Yeah, go ahead.
She'll look at someone like Matt Walsh and Michael Knowles and say like, well, your marriages aren't representative because you are the X%, so you can't translate your experience universally toward men. It's like, okay, but simultaneously she will just say it's not as big of a deal for men to cheat. If you look at a lot of women in their relationships with their husbands, with their boyfriends, they will absolutely think that it is a big deal if they cheat. Now, if you're saying like, oh, well, the top 1%, their wives wives, who might be trophy wives, are not going to think it as big of a deal. They're going to turn the other cheek. Well, Pearl is doing the exact same thing that she accuses Matt Walsh and Michael Knowles of doing, trying to apply the standards for the top 0.1% to the average male in the dating pool or in the marriage pool.
This is insane. This is insane framing because you want to point out hypocrisy where it doesn't exist. Matt Walsh and the tradcons suffer from the exact same contradiction that you do, which is to give a green light to secularists to get married, which is degenerate in and of its own nature, is a degenerate non-sacramental act. It is not a Catholic act. It is not an Orthodox act for secularists to engage in this kind of degeneracy in society and then wrap it up in a bow with a state contract. That's insanity. Not only that, but none of these guys actually are willing to debate the issues with any of these people. Rollo Tomassi, Myron, all of these different red pillars have done a call out to debate with the Daily Wire people on this particular issue because they're hang on, because they're straw man so heavily, and none of them will do it. Not one. So that tells me, right? At least you could, I have some respect for you, at least, Lauren, because you showed up to do the debate. I mean, kudos to you. Great. At least we had it. These guys won't even show up to a debate. We had it all set up with Myron Gaines. We had it all set up on whatever. We've had it set up a dozen times to take these guys to task on their absurd criticisms of what is considered the red pill, and they refuse to even show up. Instead, they go into a smoke-filled cigar room and film each other kissing each other's asses and talking about how great it is that they want secular people to get married. Oh, wow. We've really won the culture war now, Lauren.
Well, I mean, to be fair to them, I'm not a Daily Wire employee. I'm not a fan of the Daily Wire as a whole. I like Matt Walsh and Michael Knowles, though. But Andrew Klavan and Michael Knowles have both sat down with Pearl specifically. They have had those conversations. I'm not saying that they shouldn't have further ones.
Yeah, Klavan got destroyed by Pearl Davis, who's not even a good debater. Yeah, I can't even tell you how badly it would go for the Daily Wire guys to have guys like me who I'm not even a red pillar. I just don't straw man their position. Same thing, Rollo Tomassi, Myron Gaines, all of these guys, they would absolutely obliterate them, and that's why they hide, because they don't have prescriptions to these problems. And that's a big problem if you're out there advocating for Christianity, and what ends up happening is we all look stupid, we get pummeled, these guys in their spaces laugh at us, and I don't blame them.
Do you think that there exists a way for, I guess, there are secular adjustments to marriage that the red pill community would look at and think, you're right, this does change my view of marriage and whether I should get married?
Repeat the question. I want to make sure I get it correct.
So do you think that there are secular changes to civil marriages? And again, I'll say it all the day long. You are right about secular marriages. I have no problems, W for you. You're right. But do you think that there are secular changes that would make secular men more likely to get married? Because if you're saying...
Yeah, but I don't want them to. I want them to get a sacramental marriage. Why would I try to move society towards degeneracy, to enabling degeneracy? Why would I do that? The truth is written on your heart. That it is true that men and women are inclined to become married, but absent the sacrament, right? They're not living in a married lifestyle at all. They just have some bizarre state contract. It's totally meaningless. Why would I move heaven and earth and all of society to reform all of these laws on behalf of these men if they're not even going to go through with a sacrament, have an ecclesiastical authority which can govern their marriage? You're setting them up for failure. Absent that ground-based community, which you only get from the church. You can only get community building from the church. The reason most of these marriages actually fail, and Sexton he's a divorce lawyer. He's very popular all over the internet. Great guy. We've gone rounds and rounds about this. But one of the big keys, and if you read his book, you'll find this out, absent the groundswell community, there's nothing which keeps these marriages together. There's no shame. There's nothing to appeal to. It's just you and her, and that's it. And all of the degeneracy of the world. Why would I move heaven and earth and try to do everything that I could to promote that? I don't want to promote that. I want to move these people out of that and into sacramental marriage so that hopefully... not even hopefully, they will, based on what you and I have already discussed, which is that the more religious you are, the less likely you are to get divorced. That's going to require sacramental marriage. That's the way forward, but that requires patriarchy. I'm not going to move laws around and advocate to move these laws around so that secularists can engage in more degeneracy. That's insane.
Okay. And again, the civil or marriage thing, I think you're right there. That's something that you've kind of blown my mind on. I don't have a problem admitting that. I think from the Daily Wire perspective, they view it as pragmatically easier to encourage people who are secular to get married, have children within that state wedlock than it is to convert them. And I think
we could say abortion is more pragmatic because you can get rid of the undesirables in society too if you wanted to. We're not interested as Christians in pragmatic solutions. We're interested as Christians in sacramental solutions and bringing people into the church of Jesus Christ, the body of Jesus Christ. In order to do that, we need to have a message which can compete with the common sense messaging of the red pill, and they ain't got it. And that's why they get destroyed. And that's why guys like me, the few of us which exist, can go out there and completely dismember both sides of the argument because we actually understand what the arguments are. These are not evil men. They're trying to get by inside of this completely degenerate world. They're looking for a solution like this. Myron would be the first to engage in ecclesiastical authority when it came to marriage and recommend that men go that route. And they know that they're immoral absent Jesus Christ and God. But if you can't offer them a superior message, the red pill is going to beat the holy tar out of you, and that's exactly what they're doing. That really has nothing to do with anything. I want to know specifically if you have feminist ideals or you do not have feminist ideals.
But I suppose that I don't have feminist ideals, but the reason why I talk about all of those things because I don't think it's an argument where it's men, therefore better. I think that's an oversimplification. I think, if we look at all the different strengths that men versus women have, it's not just that they're men. And I think kind of just trying to oversimplify it in those ways, you're going to lose a lot of people who...
Well, I think making it overly complex actually makes us lose far more people. So just because you take have
you heard of peaceful Latinas?
They're idiots. But just because you take
but they're actually someone who agree with my position. But
that's nice. They're a bunch of liberal scumbags. They're a couple of liberal scumbags.
They agree with my position. But when it's marketed as, just repeal the 19th, their brain shuts off.
Oh, yay. Progressives agree with your position. Awesome. That's great. Swell.
Yeah, we live in a society where we must.
Did you just use the "we live in a society"?
We must be able to persuade.
You don't persuade the devil by dancing with him. The devil persuades you. That's how that ends up working. So what happens is by you moving off the message. Let me finish my point.
You're one of the
let me finish my point.
Channels you just said.
Let me finish my point. Yeah, their ideology can be challenged in a debate channel. That's true. That's not me dancing with them politically and saying, "Oh, you happen to agree with my policy prescription, so that makes them good." That's absurd. It doesn't make them good. Dancing with a bunch of progressives like Destiny and the rest of these coomers and acting like they're on your team because they agree with certain issues is absurd. These people are fucking horrible. They're horrible people. They do horrible things. And for us to make these kinds of bizarre advocations that, the concept is so complex, the average Joe could just never really understand it. There's so much nuance. There's not really that much nuance. It's not really that. It's not really that complex.
People absolutely can understand it, but we have to take the time to explain it first before they do.
Yeah, and that's exactly what I do. That's what debate does. Debate helps flesh out these ideas and these ideologies so that people can understand it. But these people are not our friends. They're not our buddies. They're not our pals. They absolutely want to dismantle the society in which we live. And they're pretty awful. So no, I don't care what progressives might agree with your positions.
Yeah, but it goes to show that the positions themselves are sound, and they're sound to the point where you might even be able to implement.
No, it doesn't show that it's sound just because some people agree with them. That's an absurd statement.
I mean, if you agree that it's not a bad system, and or at the very least not a feminist system, I'll be clear there, and you even have some progressives getting on board with the idea, I don't think that's something to scoff at, and I think we're being needlessly. I don't want to say condescending, but I mean a little bit there.
Well, good. We need to gatekeep more. We need to make sure that we're not letting in the most horrifying people on planet Earth so that we can advocate for a system which they will then corrupt. That's how progressive communism got power to begin with.
What are you talking about letting into?
I'm saying that what ends up happening is this. It's the curious case of Charlie Kirk and Con Inc. It's the same exact thing. What happens is you create big tent ideology around something which is hyper specific, and then the people who you bring in begin to pollute the message. In Charlie Kirk's case, it was the LGBTQ who he wanted to come in to add to the big tent style messaging that he had for his brand of conservatism. The same exact thing can happen within whatever ideology you're advocating for. The more horrific and horrible people you bring in to advocate for that ideology, the more they're going to end up polluting it. That's how it works in real time. That's how politics operates. That's how lobbyists begin to gain control of messaging, and how they end up completely destroying what the message originally was.
So I think you're getting to the core of something that we did try in the conservative movement. That's the issue of big tent conservatism. Like, we want LGBT people voting Republican. We want all of these votes, right? And I think we should be able to work together where we have agreements. That's true. But the problem is, and we see this even in the media, when you're too willing to, I guess, go along to get along, you not only end up working together where you have agreement, which is just strategic in my opinion,
what in
but
the name
the
of
movement
hypocrisy
itself, the
is
Overton
this?
window changes.
Why say this when you just got done saying, oh, but there's progressives who agree with me, and now you're kind of moving out of the other side of your face and saying, oh,
yeah, but I
but
don't
the
think,
thing
I don't
is, it's
think
like, I don't think that that's
progressives-
necessarily a good thing. It's like, get off
hang
the
on,
fence
hang
and
on
pick a
second.
position.
Wait. I don't think it's a bad thing if progressives also support me, but I think what's bad is where we start to say that just because you agree with this one position, you are now conservative. You're part of the new right that is inclusive. There's a big difference there. There is a very, very
What's
big
the
difference
distinction?
there. The distinction is, well, we're not going to, just because you agree with me on one of these issues, that doesn't mean I'm going to compromise my position on all these other issues.
That was Charlie Kirk's
where we don't
position.
agree.
I disagree with the fact that you're LGBTQ, but as long as you're voting with me, everything's a-okay. No. What happens
we
is it
saw in practice
pollutes.
is there was the
What?
there
No,
was
there
the
wasn't. What happened is they polluted that message and absolutely destroyed it. Charlie Kirk and TPUSA have had to back up on all of their messaging, everything from immigration to LGBTQ rights. Fortunately, there was a basically fatwa that was put up against them by one Mr. Can't even be named on the internet, who completely dismantled that messaging before the poison got too out of hand. But that's exactly what was going on, was an inclusion of these lunatics inside of the conservative movement, which pollute the message. That's why Donald Trump now has rainbow flags all over the place. It pollutes the message.
Well, there's a difference between saying, yes, you should vote for me versus I'm going to put you up on stage as the spokesperson for my message. That's not something that I agree with. That's not something that I
Well, then
support.
why are you
when
referencing
it
these
comes to-
people like they're your buddies?
What are you talking about?
Well, have you heard of Peaceful Latinas, says Lauren Chen. They support my message. That's essentially showcasing them as speakers for the message.
No, that's just saying that in this one regard, this is an argument that I think does have broad appeal if we explain it correctly, or at least if I explain myself correctly.
I don't think it does. I think what ends up happening is it does not have broad appeal. Infiltrators come in and they'll begin to pollute, dilute, and destroy the message. That's what ends up happening. Conservatism does not have a unified message, and it doesn't because we don't seem to understand that conservatism is supposed to be a patriarchal structure. It's supposed to be top-down patriarchy based around Christian ethics. That is conservatism, or else what are we trying to conserve, Lauren?
I think you're right. If it's not that, then what is it?
Right, what is it? So then the question becomes, why are we in bed with women, especially women, female commentators, who absolutely do not agree with this? Your assaults against Pearl Davis, which led to our beef to begin with, my critiques of your video as you went after Pearl Davis, was a way for you. She is dismantling feminist ideology and is pro-patriarchy, and all you could do is criticize her for that. That is covert feminism.
She's anti-Christian. She's not.
She's not anti-Christian.
She absolutely is. If she's telling men to, not date women in the church, if she's saying that Christianity has become,
she's telling them not to date reformed prostitutes. Do you want men to date reformed prostitutes in the church, Lauren?
No, I don't actually.
No, and neither does Pearl, because she's smart, because she understands that what's going on inside of your Protestant churches, where everything is a personal Jesus, where you have destroyed your ecclesiastical authority, where you have destroyed an actual relationship with the church, that they will let in reformed prostitutes who just got their heads dunked a week before at heresy.com, and now suddenly they're your new trad wife.
What do you mean let into the church? I don't think someone like Nala should be in any type of leadership. I mean, aside from the fact that she is a woman, she is a porn star. So that's not something that I support. But if you actually read what Pearl has said in regards to just like the idea that Christian women who go to church are no different than secular women in regard to something like divorce, that's patently untrue.
No,
that's
it's not. It's not untrue.
If you look at the divorce statistics.
Yeah, let's look at the divorce statistics and dive into it. So here's what is true. What is true is that self-identified Christians do get divorced at an even higher rate than secularists do. What happens is, if you look in it's a pious scale. So people who take their religion more seriously, the less likely they are to get divorced. But if you're talking about covert feminists who were literally sucking 100 penises last year on film in front of everybody, now suddenly they come into the church, that's your new trad wife? No, Pearl Davis says that's bullshit. We shouldn't follow that, and that has nothing to do with the Christian ethic, and it has nothing to do with the Christian faith, and she's absolutely right. That is a dismantling of feminism. Last thing that you want is your future leaders to be bogged down with former prostitutes. That seems like a bad idea, Lauren.
No, I don't disagree there. The video that I did about Nala specifically is responding to people who say that
you kissed her ass, Lauren. You kissed her ass. You kissed Nala's ass. You kissed her ass.
If she is a new person born again, then we have absolutely no right to say that she has not been saved. Now, I also believe that the best indicator.
What do you mean? Why don't you have that right? She went to heresychurch.com and got her head dunked. What to you is salvation?
Her head dunked? What are you talking about?
Meaning that she walked into a church, the particular one that she went to is a church which is known to take in basically any type of celebrity that they can, and especially the more horrible ones. They instantly give them a baptism and then say, oh, you're cured and you found Jesus, and then they go on a testimonial tour. Why should we take that as being authentic? If you shall know them by their fruits, that means you shall know them by their works. And in this particular case, where is Nala giving compensation back to the hundreds and thousands of men who she did horrific damage to? Where's your demand for that, Lauren?
I don't have a problem with that. The video that I did, though, was discussing whether Nala's salvation is real. And I think ultimately I did say that we shall know them by their works. This is something that we will have to wait and see. I don't disagree as a concept that Nala is... My point, though, with Nala is that it is possible for her to be saved. There's no one who is beyond the redemption of Christ.
I didn't say that there was.
Change the fact that, sorry?
I didn't say that there was, but let me ask you a question.
Well, there you go.
Assuming for a second...
Can I clarify my position first?
Clarify
because you're saying a lot of things that I don't agree with. So I think you may not be sure as to what my actual beliefs are. I think a Christian man has every right to say that you were doing this yesterday. I don't want to marry you. I think there's no end to the standards that Christian men should have for other Christians. So I think a Christian man should be able to say no to dating a Christian woman if it's for something as simple as you are too much of a careerist.
Yeah, but
let alone you used to be a porn star.
But can is different than should. What Pearl's saying is you shouldn't do it. And I agree. You shouldn't do it. Not only that, let me ask you this, Lauren. Let's assume for a second that a person found Christ and they were convicted of doing some kid diddling. Would you let them watch your kid because they were saved?
No, absolutely. No, 100%.
Yeah, so then what happens is inside these churches, what's going on is these women are using Christianity as a cloak and a shield. Half the time they're doing pornography with a crucifix on their chest. Half the time they have quotes, biblical quotes on their butt cheeks. I've met these women time and time again through the Whatever podcast and these other places. They're utilizing the church specifically as a shield and a cloak. When we get into the red pill prescriptions themselves, if we're going opposing to descriptors, red pillars are making it very clear that the church has become corrupted with feminism, and it has.
All right, well, that's all well and good, but that's not what my position on Nala was. And I think I've been.
It was. You kissed her ass that whole video. I watched the whole video. You were busy kissing her ass, telling her how great she was. And she's not great. She's a horrible, awful person who did horrible damage to people, has done nothing to give compensation to any of them.
I agree that she, like, I have seen people say, like, she should give away the money then if she's sincere. I don't disagree with that either. I will say that, we have people like Andrew Tate, who I think should also do more to compensate for the fact that he built his empire off of, running a cam service. But when it comes to the question of should a Christian man date Nala, should we accept her as a leader in the church? I think that's a no. It's a different question than is it possible for someone like Nala to have been saved?
Yeah, on the salvific claim, we would make the claim that the Orthodox would never make a claim that you're not saved. But that's really beside the point. What ends up happening, no, it is, and I'll tell you how. Because all of the tangling that you guys end up doing with these red pillars is just to say, who are you to judge? She's been saved. No, they should judge. Absolutely, they should judge, and more Christians should be very much more righteously judgmental against these horrific human beings who suddenly claim they found Jesus yesterday, go inside of the patriarchal churches and begin the dismantling of them from the inside out. No, we should judge them. Yes, we should, right, Lauren? We should judge these women, right?
Yes, absolutely.
Good.
Well, like, pornography is wrong. OnlyFans is wrong. But the question is, like, when someone turns away from that, do we accept them in the church as recognizing that they are sinners and that they are not in a position of leadership? The reason that we have a catechesis inside of Orthodoxy that takes many years is to make sure that you can weed out people who aren't ready for the faith. Theosis and Christianity is a lifelong process. The path is narrow. It's very easy to fall off of that path. There's no reason for us. In fact, I would say the opposite is true, that your relationship with Jesus Christ should be kept as private as possible, and all of your charitable contributions, donations, things like that should also be kept confidential. What happens instead is these people go on these massive publicity tours, oftentimes heralded by people such as yourself, who make these videos, these long-form videos, absolutely kissing their ass, when you should be completely dismantling and wrecking them. They're horrific for the patriarchal structures, which you seem to want to advocate for. Why should we kiss their asses? So there's Pearl Davis. She's not kissing their ass. She says, no, broad, get out of here. You're completely destroying the fabric of society, and you're using this as a cloak. We can clearly see you're using it as a cloak, and you people lambast her for saying that, but it's true. So when it comes to someone like Nala, do you think, you just said you should be keeping your relationship with Christ private. Do you think that someone who is newly saved should be, is it a bad thing if they share their testimony?
Absolutely. Running around the country trying to share your testimony of your salvation from the day before, it actually is a defeater to the position of the humbleness of Christianity. You're supposed to operate within Christianity with humility. That is the entire point of it. You're not supposed to pray publicly. You're not supposed to say, look at me. You're not supposed to tell people on Twitter, oh, I'll pray for you. That's just saying fuck you. That's all that's saying. I'll pray for you is just saying fuck you. That's all it is. Okay? That's bullshit. That's not Christianity. That's something totally different than what Christianity is. And all I see is people on your side completely going after these red pill podcasters and people like this. And yes, it's true. Many of them are degenerates, but that doesn't make them less right about what's going on, and the fact that the Christ pillars offer no prescriptions to marriage at all. They offer nothing.
I don't think that's fair to say they offer no prescriptions for marriage at all.
Well then, okay, Lauren, why should a secularist man get married? Give me one good reason.
Well, I think that having children is a very good and very important one.
Why should a secular man want children? Why would you want a secular man to have children?
Well, because I mean, aside from the general decline in birth rates, which I think is a
you want secularists to continue to reproduce? That seems like a good idea to you?
Yes, I think even if you are not Christian, you probably should have kids. We're at a point.
Is their marriage valid if it's a secularist marriage to begin with, Lauren?
Valid? No.
No. So you're basically telling them to sin, right, Lauren? Aren't you telling them to sin by telling them to get a non-Christian marriage and have children? Aren't you telling them to sin, Lauren?
Okay, yeah.
What's that? Yes, you're telling. So you're telling people to sin, Lauren? That's your prescription? The whole time you've been beating the holy hell out of the red pillars, and the entire time they've been right, and you've been telling them to sin, Lauren?
So hang on, let's
answer the question, Lauren.
I'm happy to admit where I'm wrong. This is not a problem for me. Let's talk about this. So, do you believe that it is sinful for a man to get married and have kids if he is not a Christian?
That's not marriage. Marriage is a sacrament between a man and a woman. That's within the purview of the Christian ethic. You have been running around with the rest of the tradcons telling men to sin, Lauren. Why are you doing that? Why? Now answer my question. Why are you doing that, Lauren?
Well, I think you're illustrating something, and again, you're getting upset with me here, but I'm happy to hear if I'm wrong, and we can talk about this. But I mean, it is true. I have argued for like a civil marriage, even within, if you're going to have kids as a man, even if you're not religious, cohabitation does not have the same outcomes as a civil marriage. That is true. There is still a difference between,
and it's all sinful, right, Lauren?
Yes, I think.
Then why are you advocating that people sin? Answer my question.
I guess I would. That's true. That's true. I guess my argument should be first for people to.
And now you know why I think you're a feminist, Lauren. Now you know.
Because of the marriage thing?
Because you go out of your way. You haven't thought these positions. The problem is when you lift these positions from people and you haven't actually thought about them, you end up being at the mercy of them. The reason I engage so much with these red pillars, the reason I engage so much with them, so that I actually understand their positions. The reason that I engage so much with the Christian sphere is so that I can really understand the positions. You don't have a good understanding or grasp on these positions. And it's covert feminism. What ends up happening, ultimately, because you haven't thought these through, is you end up advocating for things like this, which are literally sinful, and you don't even know you're advocating for them.
No, I think you're right on and I will cede that. But I think when it comes to like the voting thing, I don't think it's fair to say that I haven't considered it. I think this is a good illustration of, you're right here when it comes to advocating for secular marriage. I think I can simultaneously acknowledge that a secular marriage still has better outcomes for those involved and any children involved than something like cohabitation.
Oh, you're a Christian. You're not a consequentialist. You're not looking for outcomes. You're not looking for outcomes. Let me finish. But then also recognize that by my own standard, that is not a marriage and is therefore sinful. So that would be a contradiction, a performative contradiction.
I don't think it would be performative. I think it would be but it's not just for performance though. If you're actually like,
yes, it is for performance. The performance of X action leads to contradiction. It's a performative contradiction in your worldview. Literally.
It is a contradiction of my worldview, but I wouldn't say it's performative. I'm not doing it for an audience.
Okay, fine. We won't make the semantic too detailed, but it's a contradiction. Fine, as long as you concede that it's contradictory inside of your worldview. But let's go even deeper. Let's go even deeper into it, so that you understand even more. Okay, where these guys are coming from. Why in the world?
Sorry. Could we just stop for a second, because we dove into
so many podcasts because I knew the only way to grow my OnlyFans was to be viral. For me, I made up this complete character and I said whatever I needed to because I understand the male brain and I needed to make money, and I was like, bet.
But isn't the counter to this position that if you spent that much time lying about that, why should we assume you're not spending time lying about this?
Because you can, as a Christian, if you doubt me, as a Christian, you should look at the fruits of the Spirit and take it down.
You lied about everything.
Yeah, pretty much. And I've been on it for like 5.5 years. So everything I've said on podcasts is complete clickbait. I did it to go viral to then make money, and so many people believed it and it worked. So that's what's so like crazy about the internet. And if you've heard it before, it's very true. The internet is not real. So like everything I've said, like, oh my God, I love cheating. Like, dude, I was so freaking dead single at the time. Like who would I have cheated on, bro? Like, so for me, I made up this complete character that everyone believed in, and everyone was like, I was very controversial to people, and I was very, like, some people really, really liked me. But at the end of the day, social media is just fake news. So I never had a cheating kink. I've been single for such a long time, especially when I was on OnlyFans. And I said whatever I needed to because I understand the male brain and I needed to make money. And I was like, Bet.
But isn't the counter to this position that if you spent that much time lying about that, why should we assume you're not spending time lying about this?
Because you can, as a Christian, if you doubt me, as a Christian, you should look at the fruits of the Spirit. And if you really do, like if you can't have an actual conversation with me to see where my focuses lie now, just ask God and look at the fruit of the Spirit. But if you're an unbeliever, I don't really know what to tell you. You can think I'm grifting, you can think I'm lying, whatever it is, but you're just going to see consistency for the rest of my time online, Instagram, everything.
Wait,
I
so
got
you
taken down.
you lied about everything?
Yeah.
I think that Nala is engaging in Nestorianism, a form of heresy. And unless I can do a Socratic internal critique to understand where she's coming from, I can't really explain this. But because you're incapable of shutting the fuck up, it's impossible for me to do that.
How are you a Christian, bro? You know, perverse speech is actually
you've had
a sin.
50 dicks in your mouth. Never lecture me about anything, ever.
2 years of my OnlyFans. So,
Yeah, so it's hyperbole. But okay. Like, I don't know the precise amount of dicks that you've had in your mouth. It's just many more dicks than you should have in your mouth.
So this is the thing. I literally said that I slept
right?
with 23 to 25 people. So how does 23 to 25 people equate to 50 dicks in my mouth? Do the math, Andrew.
It's hyperbole. I don't know how many people you've slept with. I have no idea.
NIU, thank God.
Yeah, why? Well, I don't even understand where that came from. I don't.
Well, because you're making an assumption based off of
I also don't
what?
understand. Why is this the go-to, especially for former prostitutes, to always assume that men want to sleep with them?
I never did.
Like,
oh my
a bunch
God,
of
ew.
AIDS-ridden
No.
prostitutes. I don't want to sleep with AIDS-ridden prostitutes.
Dude, no
Disgusting.
one wants to sleep with you either. I'm sorry, but like, why
Well,
say
here's the
that?
thing.
Why
You've been
why
married
assume
for
that I
2
want to
weeks.
sleep
Like,
with
what are
you?
talking
Where
about?
did that come from?
I've been married for 10 plus years. Like, what are you talking
But
about?
no, you're literally acting like I wanted to sleep with you. I'm like, ew, no.
You brought it up. You immediately brought it up. Thank God they
When
weren't
did I
you.
bring it up?
I'm like, what the
Ladies,
fuck are you
please.
talking
I'm
about?
literally talking to a delusional person right now. When did I ever say I wanted to sleep with you or even assumed
Nala,
it?
I didn't say that you said that. You brought up this. What you said was, thank God they weren't you. As though there's some type of imperative that every man wants to sleep with AIDS-ridden prostitutes. They don't.
Age-ridden, dude, I'm
They don't.
26. Get off your high horse.
No, it's not a high horse. Why do you
think I'm old at 26?
You said
want a
AIDS,
bunch of STD
like-
Oh, you said
prostitutes. They
AIDS-ridden.
don't.
So look at you making false assumptions once again. You called me a pathological liar, and then you're literally over here saying I had 50 dicks in my mouth, saying that I have AIDS, when you have no proof of any of that. So
didn't
that
say
doesn't
you
that
had
make
AIDS
you a
either.
liar? Answer my question, Andrew. Doesn't that make you a
Yeah.
liar?
No, of course not. First of all, on both counts.
I love this conversation.
Hyperbole. The use of hyperbole is to demonstrate the absurdity of what somebody else is saying.
But
It's
saying
not
it as a
supposed to be precise. It's supposed to be hyperbolic. That's the point.
Saying it as
It's
a
supposed
fact.
to deliver a point home that's generally true enough, and that's why you use hyperbole. Like, for instance, sex workers are filled to the brim with STDs. That's hyperbole. Now,
That's
is that
funny, 'cause
precise? Does that mean that all sex workers have STDs? Well, of course not. But it's true enough.
You do understand that
hyperbolically
normal
speaking,
people have STDs
nobody
too.
wants to fuck a bunch of AIDS-riddled prostitutes. Yes, that's correct.
2 years of my OnlyFans. So,
Yeah, so it's hyperbole. But okay. Like, I don't know the precise amount of dicks that you've had in your mouth. It's just many more dicks than you should have in your mouth.
So this is the thing. I
If you
literally
want a
said that I
prostitute,
slept
right?
with 23 to 25 people. So how does 23 to 25 people equate to 50 dicks in my mouth? Do the math, Andrew.
It's hyperbole. I don't know how many people you've slept with. I have no idea.
NIU, thank God.
Yeah, why? Well, I don't even understand where that came from. I don't.
Well, because you're making
by the
an
way,
assumption based off
I also
of
don't
what?
understand. Why is this the go-to, especially for former prostitutes, to always assume that men want to sleep with them?
I never did.
Like,
oh my
a bunch
God,
of
ew.
AIDS-ridden
No.
prostitutes. I don't want to sleep with AIDS-ridden prostitutes.
Dude, no
Disgusting.
one wants to sleep with you either. I'm sorry, but like, why
Well,
say
here's the
that?
thing.
Why
You've been married
assume
for
that I
2
want to
weeks.
sleep
Like,
with
what are
you?
talking
Where
about?
did that come from?
I've been married for 10 plus years. Like, what are you talking
But
about?
no, you're literally acting like I wanted to sleep with you. I'm like, ew, no.
You brought it up. You immediately brought it up. Thank God they
When
weren't
did I
you.
bring it up?
I'm like, what the
Ladies,
fuck
please.
are you talking about?
I'm literally talking to a delusional person right now. When did did I ever say I wanted to sleep with you or even assumed
Nala,
it.
I didn't say that you said that. You brought up this. What you said was, thank God they weren't you. As though there's some type of imperative that every man wants to sleep with AIDS-ridden prostitutes. They don't.
AIDS-ridden? Dude, I'm
They don't.
26. Get off your high horse.
No, it's not a high horse. Why do you
So you think I'm old at 26?
You
said
want a
AIDS,
bunch of STD
like-
Oh, you said AIDS-ridden. So look at you making false assumptions once again. You called me a pathological liar, and then you're literally over here saying I had 50 dicks in my mouth, saying that I have AIDS, when you have no proof of any of that. So
didn't
that
say
doesn't
you
that
had
make you a
AIDS.
liar? Answer my question, Andrew. Doesn't that make you a
Yeah.
liar?
No, of course not. First of all, on both counts.
I love this conversation.
Hyperbole. The use of hyperbole is to demonstrate the absurdity of what somebody else is saying.
But
It's
saying
not
it as a
supposed to be precise. It's supposed to be hyperbolic. That's the point.
Saying it as
It's
a
supposed
fact.
to deliver a point home that's generally true enough, and that's why I use hyperbole. Like, for instance, sex workers are filled to the brim with STDs. That's hyperbole. Now,
That's
is that
funny, 'cause
precise? Does that mean that all sex workers have STDs? Well, of course not. But it's true enough.
You do
So
understand that
hyperbolically
normal
speaking,
people have STDs
nobody
too.
wants to fuck a bunch of AIDS-riddled prostitutes. Yes, that's correct.
Rachel, we were just talking about how Andrew's he's getting me close. He's getting me close to Orthodox Christianity, and Nal over here is like, "Oh no, don't do the Orthodox." And I was like,
Definitely don't sound like that. First off,
put a little respect on Orthodox Christianity because rude. One.
how can
Two,
you put respect on it when you don't even believe in it?
What, did I? Look, I'm almost there. Chill out, Nala.
You chill out, Brian.
You chill.
Oh,
I
really gotta
did.
stop
I'll
begging
make
me.
you
I'm better
chill
at
out.
2 a.m. for this.
And secondly,
I wanted to meet you.
Hold
That's
on,
why.
Hold on. And then secondly, listen. Wait, what's the term you use, Rachel? It's the heresy church.
Yeah, that's what I
you call it?
Non-denoms.
Yeah,
heresy
look.
churches.
Look, Orthodox Christianity, in my
Makes so
view,
much
it's
sense.
like the most based. It's the most based.
What about having a relationship with Christ? God did not come to start a religion. He came to start a relationship. So
Yeah, but bro,
what are you basing this off
what I'm
of?
saying is,
Wait. You're not doing the spiritual but not religious routine, are you?
Why do you believe in a religion? Did God create a religion, or did he create disciples to go
church.
spread the word of God?
Okay, well, if you read the Bible, Christ says, I have come to establish my church, and the gates of hell will not prevail against it. He didn't say, I came to leave you this Bible, and you can just read it, and the Holy Spirit will tell you whatever you want to hear, and you just do your own thing, girl. You don't have to go to a church. You don't need these sacraments. You don't need this church canon. In fact, you wouldn't have a Bible if it wasn't for the Orthodox Church. Do you know anything about how the biblical canon
So for
was
me,
formed?
I actually don't. So for me, because
Well,
I
you
do
should
not believe in
probably
having a
read
religion.
about that.
I
You
really
need to
don't
read
believe
about
in
that.
having a religion to get to heaven. I believe in having a relationship and thinking, and not even thinking, but knowing that Christ died on the cross for my sins, and that I needed to repent and change my ways, and then continue to live out my life spreading the word of God. Is it not that? Do you not believe in that, or I'm confused?
Does Jesus say that you have to eat his body and drink his blood to be saved? Does he command us to receive communion with him through the drinking of his blood and the eating of his body in the Bible?
Yes.
Okay.
Not to be
How-
saved, but it's not a
What?
requirement to be saved to have communion, but it's something you should do as a Christian.
What do you think you're participating in when you're doing that? Have you ever taken communion? Mm-hmm. What is it that you're participating in when you take part in the Eucharist or have communion?
I think having a deeper relationship with Christ and understanding that, again, the bread represents his body that you are taking and receiving into yourself, and then the blood, which isn't blood, but like grape juice or something. With Catholics, I know it's wine, but for me, I just feel like it's, again, communion with the Holy Spirit, communion with Christ, communion with God. That is what you are accepting.
The problem here is that you have absolutely no idea what you're talking about. You don't know anything about the history of Christianity, where your Bible came from, any of the context in which it was written. This is all really, really important.
What
stuff
Bible
for you to
do
even
you
know
read?
You don't know who you're having a relationship with.
Jesus
You don't know
Christ?
who
You don't think I know who I have a
the
relationship
person-
with?
You don't know who the
This all
person of
makes sense
Jesus
now.
Christ is unless you have some context. You don't just let me ask you this. How did a Christian in the year 300 know Christ? Did they read
God's
their
Spirit.
Bible? And did they read a Bible and read about Jesus, and that's how they had a relationship?
No, I really think that it was the Holy Spirit that came down because he's claimed to be our helper. And that is what it happened. Like even people in the Bible, they didn't have a Bible to go off of.
Right. So how do you just think that the Holy Spirit just comes down and does what? How does this work?
He's claimed to be our helper and our teacher, so he teaches us. So in
know
all
what
of us,
Pentecost
in the Bible, it says that there's a part in us that knows who Christ is. So no matter what, who it is, that there's a piece in us that knows who Christ is. And that will be revealed sometimes, but God can reveal himself in so many different ways to a person, in dreams, through a different person, through visions. Like it could be any way possible. So that's how I think.
Okay, well, the problem with this is you're doing like this DIY Mr. Potato Head Christianity where we just read the Bible and we get bits and pieces and we kind of put it together like a little Mr. Potato Head and we make up our own Christianity.
I'm
And
sorry, but you're
As long as
wrong.
we get the spirit of the thing, that's all that counts, but that is not.
But you don't even know what I do in my practice to even understand how I got saved. You're telling me that all I do is read the Bible whenever I feel like it and then I feel like I'm saved?
Well,
but you have no idea what my
think
spiritual
that-
walk looks
Ma'am.
like. Ma'am.
Ma'am, you think that the Eucharist is just like thinking about Jesus and the Holy Spirit while you eat some crackers and have some grape
No, I
juice,
never
and
said
I'm
that.
telling you that.
Communion between the Holy Spirit, Jesus, and God is a actual
You
relationship.
said it's not the real presence of God. You said it's not his real blood and it's not his real body, and you know that neither Roman Catholics nor
Is it not
Orthodox know
bread?
it.
Is
In
it not
fact,
bread and grape
Protestant-
juice, bro?
Wait, can
Is
I-
it not bread and grape juice?
It's not bread and grape
Sorry.
juice.
Can I
This
interject?
woman is not.
Yo,
if I could
Eugene.
talk- If I could talk, you dragged me.
Thank you
down
for the
here
gifted
let me
50.
talk.
Thank you.
This woman is not a Christian. She doesn't believe in the divinity of Christ. She doesn't believe in the real presence of the Eucharist. She thinks it's just bread and grape juice, bro. And we
I
just
bet
like
Andrew
think about the
behind
Holy
her's like,
Spirit. And we eat the bread and we drink the. She thinks it's just an empty symbol. She does not know what Christianity is. She doesn't even think it's a religion. This is a New Age girl. This is a New Age chick.
Oh, it doesn't
who
take
found-
New
who
Age anything
who
to
found
believe in
some
Christ.
Self-help. She found self-help Jesus, Buddy Christ. She found self-help Jesus, and she made her own Mr. Potato Head Jesus that she follows. She's not even a Christian. She said so herself.
Who are you
But
to
who- I was about
say
to
that
say
I'm not a
that.
Christian? Who are you? You sound like
I'm
a
telling you
Pharisee.
that Christianity has specific criteria for who is a Christian.
That's in
You
your
can't just-
religion. That is in your
No.
religion. That is in your
Okay,
religion.
can
No,
I
I just
interject?
want you
Yes.
on record saying Christianity's not a real religion.
I never said that. I said I am non-denominational. When did I say that?
Is Christianity a religion? Is
Thank
Christianity a
you.
religion?
I'm sorry, but we have people on the table shaking their heads no that I didn't say
Is
that. So
Christianity a religion?
Christianity, I don't think so. No.
Did it?
Well, then what are you arguing with me about? Why